I would like to thank all the panelists, Dr. Amitava Ghosh representing Ola Group, Dr. Ms. Chaitali Mukherjee representing Dalmia OCL, Mr. Rajni Kant representing the Advance Group Agribusiness, and of course, we would like to also thank Mr. Subir Verma, Head HR and IR of Tata Power DDL. This has been a one-year journey. I mean, we started here sometime in the month of May last year. And of course, in the peak of pandemic and, human resources in each of the organizations were in a turmoil in terms of the fact that there was an outrage of pandemic. What's going to happen with the job? What's going to happen with career? Organizations were kind of looking at it at each passing day, right? So, and then amidst of lockdown. So we thought that this is the right time to connect with the HR fraternity, give them a lot of assurance, information about what each of the organizations have adopted, the best practices, and on the other side, get a lot of job seekers, people who are presently working to a platform where they hear each other and kind of get a confidence that while there is a pandemic around, as far as jobs are concerned, the careers are concerned, there's a lot which is happening. The world of work is changing. There's a new element of jobs, digitalization, all of them coming into play and how things are going to shape up. So it's a caravan which we are carrying on. And once again, thanks to all of you, and specifically thanks to all the participants who have time and again shown their confidence in being part of our webinar. And each time they have joined in, they have come up with very interesting questions, very overwhelming response. So I'd like to thank all the participants who have been part of this journey throughout. And we look forward to their participation as well. So, well, today's topic is elevating the human in human capital, a very thought around topic. And I would like to give a quick introduction about each one of the panelists, and followed by that, then I'm going to pick up the topic and move forward. So to start with, we have Dr. Amitava Ghosh. Dr. Amitava Ghosh is a Director HR and Group Head Employee Relations and Compliance, Ola Group. His career spans about 20 plus years. His previous organizations where he has worked are Quest Corp Limited, Teamly Services Limited, Clear Channel International. As far as education qualification is concerned, he is a PhD researcher, Business Administration and Management, General University of Mysore is from where he has done his education. He's an author of 3 distinctive books and the first Indian author to write a book on gig economy. There are 5 international research papers that are published and close to around 62 papers. He is also a visiting faculty at Bangalore University and many management institutes. It's his passion to connect with the budding management students. And I think he gets excited about the fact that he's able to put across all his expertise and experiences that he has garnered over these years. Moving on, I think a lady who represents woman power in terms of knowledge, in terms of courage, and also in terms of implementing things from the HR fraternity in a wonderful organization, Dalmia, where of course, there are challenges, but I think she takes each of these challenges as an opportunity. And that's how I think she's a perfect example to be showcasing that how pandemic can be an opportunity as well, instead of muddling over it. So Chaitali Mukherjee is a Senior General Manager HR, Dalmia Bharat Limited. Again, she has got a career which is spanning over 20 years, 24, 25 to be precise. She's done her MBA HR from University of Calcutta. Her previous organizations been Ultratech Cement, MK Jalan Group, Titagarh Paper Industries. Thanks for joining, Chaitali. We look forward to hear from you. Moving on, we have Mr. Subir Verma. Mr. Subir Verma is Head HR and IR, Tata Power DDL, 22 years of career. And he has done his education PG management from Xavier Institute of Management. His previous organizations, Tata Communications, Reliance Communication, Reliance Industries Limited, Aptech Limited. So I think fantastic organizations. We are going to hear a lot from him in terms of the zeal to grow, the growth facet kind of organizations that he has worked for, and of course the processes that he has over the years learned, and what all he has been able to put in all these organizations. Additional information about him: authored articles for the Times of India, Indian Express, Hindustan Times, Competition Success Review, Silicon India, and HR Magazine. He's been People's Champion of the Year by Business World in the year 2020. CHR of the Year by the World HRD Congress in the year 2019. So these are excellent achievements. We look forward to you, Subir Verma, and we would request you to share all your insights, which would definitely help the job seekers and people who are in the first 5 years of their professional careers. Moving on, Mr. Rajnikant. The name is very popular across India, and specifically in the southern part of the country. Mr. Rajnikant is CLO of Agribusiness Advance Group, 25 plus years of career. He's been executive and enrichment program, business administration and management, general from Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore. His previous companies, Bangalore Chemicals and Fertilizers, LG Vipments, Carl Kubel Institute for Development Education, and SPIC Limited. Is known for infusing a lot of learning opportunities across the level of people in an organization. During my interaction with him and otherwise, what I've understood is very down-to-earth person, but enormous element of knowledge, and always looking forward to help people. So thank you, Mr. Rajnikant. Thanks for joining the webinar. So moving on, I think we will get going with the topic. Just to reiterate to all of us, the topic is elevating the human in human capital, right? So what has happened in the last 12 months has shown us how physical, mental, and financial, social health of an employee is important. Companies are now looking at integrating these aspects in work itself rather than having separate programs. I would like to come to you, Mr. Ghosh, and understand from you, how are you looking at these elements within your organization?
Thank you, Sudeep. Is the voice clear, audible?
Yes, yes.
Thank you, Sudeep. FY 2021 kickstarts now. The HR revolution post-pandemic is now, which I'm going to talk about. Every time we have seen with the technological interventions in the workplace, with such disruption, the scope of HR has changed, and it changes. In the last 22 years of my journey, this is the third break. I have seen two earlier was the economical break, and this is how the physical, the health, everything has broken. With this, the changes, the scope of HR changes in the dimension, in the strategy, and in the policy planning. Typically in the tandem of to the technological needs. The disruption as a result of COVID-19 has led to changes in the behavioral pattern, emotional connect with the organization across levels. Because there was an emotional disconnect everywhere when the pandemic started last year in the month of March, end of March. To some extent, in many organizations, integrity, trust, faith, and general expectation also. The biggest question during this pandemic time was the job security. And now job security is generally no more a reliable term, as people lost their jobs when survival was at stake. HR as a team was finding difficulties to understand the behavior of employees and their commitment level. Post-pandemic, which has started now, many organizations have started their business at a very measured space and would again be required to be manned with enough manpower. And when I talk of enough manpower, mainly focuses on the side of HR. With all the options to earn were closed as a result of termination. Many terminations happened. I would not like to name the name of the companies here, but we have read in the news, we have read in the media, we have read in the print, how much terminations have happened. Retrenchment was in a process that also has happened, bulk retrenchment. And I think the labor code also will help them to do such, which I will talk up later. But in the same time, it has also developed a positivity and tenacity among the working class, particularly in the organized sector, as they are now become self-confident and self-sufficient to identify an alternative source of income for their own survival. People were put on bench, typically the IT companies. Manufacturing sectors went on a retrenchment, and termination was because none of the departments came in the front to save them. Although Home Ministry Disaster Management Act clearly said that none of these can happen, but it happened. And in the meantime, in Karnataka, the Secretary of Labor was transferred because of the Karnataka Employer Association raised a issue among it. Every job seeker behaved differently compared to the pre-COVID era, as regular employment no longer generated the same amount of trust and loyalty. Therefore, HR has found it very difficult to retain resources who were aligned with other alternatives. This disruption has also shown and proven to every employer the wage cost along with the benefit is a burden. Employees took the easiest path, which I just mentioned now, to cut down employee cost at the first hour and other related cost segments in the establishment. This has disrupted the most unique resource in the industry, because resource, I think, other than anything, we have all read in our management, land, capital, and labor. Resource is the most unique thing of the industry, the manpower resource, which would be quite difficult and a time-bound task for industry to regain. The trust has gone now. As Chaitali was mentioning, the Dalmia has done some great jobs. Not many companies have done great jobs, leaving aside the Tatas of the world. The role of HR is sure to evolve along the streamlining process through a separate and unique set of tools, which probably were never applied before. We never thought of. Although I don't belong from a core HR, but I've been a part of the HR for the last 20 years, which is a hard side of the HR. Typically on the employee relations, the pain of the employees could see on their eyes when the termination and retrenchment happened. Digitization and artificial intelligence is rapidly spreading all over the aspects in the socio-economic setup of the globe and industries, which is one thing which is seen, because in Ola, we are coming up with the world largest two-wheeler unit, 130 kilometers away from Bangalore in Tamil Nadu, where robotics will help us. Obviously, manpower is one big source. And the big time outsourcing is coming because of the cost factor. And the labor codes have become and made it much easier now. I'm sure we will not have time much to talk on the labor codes here, because it is yet to be implemented. But however, the reviews are going on. The world will witness now artificial intelligence in the lead role, typically in the industrial sector, where human involvement will substantially increase, not decrease. It will increase. Because I do not know, Chaitali would know here, West Bengal is one unique place where all the Dalmias and Dunlops of the world were there. The Birlas were there. They all shifted from Calcutta. The Philips shifted from Calcutta to Bombay. Why? Because of the left-front government, what has happened? The United Nations. I started my career with jute industry, which is now a sunset industry. But trust me, with this pandemic getting over, the AI, digitization, and with the precision technological knowledge and exposure, which is gaining now, which will help the manufacturing sector to generate more production. But what remains to be idle, people have found out that if this kind of pandemic happens in the future, the job losses are bound. So people are now cautious. More good it will happen when the Trade Union Act of 1926 vanishes out completely. Because I think this is one of the most happiest act to ever be around. Even the Code of IR do have it. But there has been a substantial decreases of the sections which has come out on this. Now in this pandemic, what has happened? The HR will be required, and going forward, HR will be required to upskill to such a scale to enable to understand the psychology and the prospective experts to be hired to support and lead the operations and other verticals of the organization in the AI-driven environment. Because
Sure.
HR will play a crucial role, typically the talent acquisition. I will come.
At this point, I would like to come to you, Chaitali. I think 4 key points: physical, mental, financial, and social health has been the center point, right, for all these people in the last 12 months. And as we say that organizations are now looking to integrate these 4 and come up with programs. What has been your experience? What in any program which is kind of close to this, or probably similar kind of programs that got implemented, wherein you have been a part of it? How did you do? What are the things that you kept in mind? Please share your views.
So thank you, Sudeep, for this invite and opportunity. A very, very relevant topic indeed, as I told you, Sudeep, that at this time. So now we heard Dr. Amitava, and we heard the other part of the story, which is really crucial. This year, 2020, has been a remarkably extraordinary, challenging and testing year, not only for all of us, but also for the organizations. And we know that how difficult it was with lockdowns, mask rules, economic crisis, travel bans, families, difficult for families getting affected, million people losing jobs. But in Dalmia, I would tell you very, very frankly, as soon as this pandemic started in March, April, the first thing that we did was to think about our employees. So the human element, the humane part of Dalmia came into existence. So I want to give you specific examples, as you wanted, Sudeep, that what we did here in Dalmia. So here, I will tell you that the first thing which came to our mind is that people were apprehensive, right? They were having a lot of fear. They were not sure about their job, what is going to happen, whether they will get their salaries timely, whether business continuity will be there. So all these questions were in their mind, right? So that these apprehensions were there. So first of all, we thought that we need to pacify our people, reassure our people, reassure our employees, give them confidence, and we tell them that the organization is with you. So don't get apprehensive, don't get disturbed. We as an organization are with you. And then we started with a lot of initiatives. The first initiative was that we prepared a Dalmia support team. And this team was made across locations, which created a guideline of work from home, created a team where at each location, if any employee is facing any trouble related to corona, related to any of their issues, any medical health issues, any other travel related issues, any crisis in their family, they can contact this team. And this team was 24/7 available at that location. They were supporting the employees. If anybody got infected in COVID, they were arranging their hospital beds in the hospital. They were arranging their vehicles. They were taking care that their insurances are in place, and all the small things which is required by the employees at those crucial hours. All these things were made available. So when this support,
so fantastic. Yeah, I think that's a fantastic example that you spoke. Dalmia support team.
So
I mean, team and kind of doing it across locations, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. So this was one thing, and this was done very well. And we are really, as an employees of the organization, we feel very proud and reassured that it is a humane organization. Secondly,
so somewhere I think communication played a very important role, right? Because how to communicate, I mean, and what level, and giving, and it's a to and fro, right? I mean, ability to hear from them as well and their apprehensions, and then you reassure. So I think communication also played a key role.
Very, very true, Sudeep. And as I told you about the communication, another thing that we did very well, that at all levels, we started connecting to people. It is not only to the people who were distressed or were having issues, but normally to the people, talking to them. Like, I will give you the example, our group HR head, Mr. Ajit Menon, he reached out to all senior members of our teams, of our employees, all senior members to a certain level. He spoke to each one of them. So we arranged those conversations, and he spoke to each one of them, gave them assurance, to ask them about their personal family. So that was, and at our level, we talked to a certain level of people, and our business partners, HR business partners, talked to all the people down the line. So we ensured that we spend talking to people almost one or 1.5 hours each day to our employees. So that connect was very, very important. As you, Sudeep, said, that communication was the key thing that we wanted to bring assurances to our people. And during this time, there were certain policies also we brought, like the broadband policy, when we said that people will be working from home. So the broadband, the Wi-Fi cost, etc., has to be borne by the organization. So that we brought in, so that people are not worried about their connectivity part. Then we did was that we utilize this time for so with this such crisis, definitely mental wellness is something which we all want to enhance in our people. So people feel lonely, distressed. So we did many sessions on mental wellness, yoga. Then we contacted the doctors with the hospitals. We had tie-ups. The doctors were here, so they were taking sessions. They were taking questions from the people, from our employees, answering their queries on this pandemic, whatever they had in mind. We also did Bhagavad Gita sessions in tie-up with Brahma Kumaris. And every week we used to have a 1-hour session. And I would tell you, Sudeep, it was such a wonderful experience to know the intricacies of Bhagavad Gita and this pandemic time. And it was appreciated by each and every member of our organization from top to bottom. Right. So then from our training and development, that's we call as Nalanda, is our name of the training and training vertical. So here we did quite a few sessions that how to maintain the leadership during challenging times, how to cope up with such difficult times. Then we did certain skill development also for our people to utilize the time of the people. And the most important thing which I want to highlight, and I think that's something great that we have done, we have not done any salary cuts for our employees, right? There were no salary cuts. And over more that we did our appraisals. We had our appraisals, though we rolled it out late in November, but we gave arrears from April, and the percentage of appraisals were the same as that of last year. So I think in this pandemic situation, it was only humane part of the organization which came forward. So this is what I want to say, that here in Dalmia, for the employees, we have only uplifted the human element, and we have engaged with the people here, and we have made sure that the people are associated with us, because we believe that human capital will go where it is wanted.
The webinar. I'm in the webinar.
And human
Sure.
capital will stay where they are well treated. They cannot be driven. We believe that they cannot be driven, but they can only be attracted. So they engage with organizations where they are treated as humans. So that is what we believe.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, so thanks, Shwetali. I would like to move to Subir Verma now. Tata, I mean, we have read it all. Tata's way of approach, Tata as a group, right? The way of approach, the element of compassion they exhibited during this phase. And of course, the new programs, which is keeping the 4 elements in terms of physical health, mental health, financial and social health into things. We would like to hear from you, Mr. Verma, because you would be able to give us a lot in terms of what we have seen, what in terms of Tata doing, the element of planning that has gone behind that, share some views on that, and of course, new programs which are probably likely to come again. Please do enrich.
Thank you very much, Sudeep. Thank you very much, Sudeep. I would say certain specific, for example, apart from physical, mental, social and financial health, I would like to add 2 more kind of wellness. One is digital wellness and second is the intellectual wellness. So these are the 3 of 6 kind of wellness which we have been focusing on. See, for us, we have not deducted any employee's salary, including contract workforce, and we paid even the contract workforce full salary, even though they were not coming during lockdown period. So those are basics for us. I mean, that is something what we stand by, and we have extended all medical support and so on and so forth, which you read in newspapers. So all those supports are provided. I would like to discuss to the next level, like the support which we provided to people are on 3 levels. One was the policy, second was the processes, and third was the practice. So for example, during this pandemic, we learned that it is very important especially for women employees, for example, we have to have a customized approach for different segment of employees. We cannot have one approach for say a male employee or an unmarried employee or a woman employee. So what we realized that the women employees and employees who have dependent parents need better support. So apart from this medical test for 3 years and 2 years, those are quite normal. And since we also have dispensary and doctors on our rolls, it becomes easier for us to take care of physical and mental wellness of not only the employees, but also their family members. What we did more was, say, for example, a woman employees who had small kids, or employee who was age of above 50, or employee with fast medical history. We used to keep track of them almost on a weekly basis and provided all support. You will be very happy to know that we also liaison with government, and you will be very happy to know that Tata Power DDL was probably the one of the company which was tagged as the frontline workers, and all our employees were given vaccination along with doctors and everybody, and all our employees are completely vaccinated, both jabs, both the vaccination they have taken. The second is the social wellness, and where our focus was. During the social wellness, we in HR realized that employee engagement is not only the engagement of the employee, but also the family members. So we realized that we need to involve the family members, the kids, the spouses, and the parents in all the initiative which we do. And during this time, we launched a lot of initiative, like few initiative which I can name, like Muskurati Zindagi or My Lockdown Story, Symphony. So these are certain stories which we did for the family members and the kids. For example, Muskurati Zindagi was a web series which was done with Ashish Vidyarthi, the film actor, in which our employees, spouses, kids, and parents also acted. Similarly, My Lockdown Story was a program in which people were sharing, our employees, their family were sharing what they are doing, and it was a whole series which was made. So involving the family members was an important element which we realized needs to be there, and that is what we did as far as social wellness are concerned. The next is digital wellness. So digital wellness may, I would say that a lot of company have done a lot of initiative like off hours, no computer hours, email restriction and all that. So those things are there. One thing which we realized, especially in our company, and I'm sure it must be there in other companies also, that since company trusted them and allowed them, most of them to work from home, even today, we even are allowing our people to work from home even today. So since company trusted them, I see a new trend coming that employees are putting in more hours to live up to the trust by the companies, and hence they are burning out. So that we are taking one initiative that you don't have to show more loyalty, you don't have to respond to the trust and work extra hours, and we are taking initiative around that. The last one which I shared about the intellectual wellness, it is very important that we take this time to prepare talent for future. We take this time to make competency which are required in coming times, both behavioral competencies, leadership competencies, and functional competency. And we launch few programs like Power Talk, Innovar, and Seek, and these are all some programs which are there. And the last point which I wanted to share, that instead of carpet bombing with these programs, what unique we did is that we used to conduct weekly survey from the employees that these are the initiative which is being done, which are the initiative you are liking, which are the initiative you are not liking, and which are the more initiative you want to do. So based on employee feedback, we used to do all initiative around physical, mental, financial, social, digital, and intellectual wellness.
Sure. So, Mr. Rajnikant, on the same point, a different industry, not centralized to the what you call as the city limits, but outskirts, right? And traditional way of working, right? And of course, a different set of employees. But again, physical, mental, financial, and social health is common, which has impacted them as well. So share some examples from the agri-industry perspective with the outbreak of pandemic. What are the different things that your company did on which you were part of it, or many other programs?
Yeah, thank you, Sudeep, and thank you, dear panelists. With your permission, I just want to check with all you, the audience, whether you are in YouTube or Zoom. How many of you here are from HR fraternity? Just type MTH, me the HR. Just type MTH, everyone, if you are from the HR fraternity.
Sure.
Right? Okay, right, great. Yeah, Srini, Neeraj, so many. Yeah, okay. So let me ask you another question. How many of you really want to learn something from here as a secret, right? Either for you or for your company or for your team, right? So just type RTL if you are ready to learn from something from this panel discussion. Right. So if you are ready to learn, yes, we have the best of the panel, I would say. One from Dr. Ghosh from the IR, and also Arthur and Subir from the ER, and Chaitali from the core HR, and maybe as me, little away from the core HR, but into the learning and development, which is about the human, which I'm going to come in. Right. I'm so happy. So I want you to be there more than sharing my experience. Just see that like with each one of the experience, if you are able to catch at least 1 or 2 or 3, and that can elevate you. That's the purpose Team Lease and Sudhir is trying. Okay. So with this, as all of you are aware, how many of you and your team member felt in the last 1 year, right? Skeptical, fearful, and more of me, and I'm not ready to help, at least in the mentally, right? So how many of you felt resonate with me, right? Just type me, you and your team. Even if I'm allowed to go to office, I'm not ready to look at, right? And in the table, we are not ready to share, right? So it's more of me, right? So in this, we are talking about team and development and company. We are working for others, all that, right? it's a two dichotomy. So the same situation we have also started. I represent the fertilizer and petrochemical companies in 3 different units, and also marketing spread across India. So we face this kind of challenge. And one of the very crucial thing is fertilizer being essential commodity, we are not supposed to stop the unit also. That's a big challenge we have started in. So except corporate offices or where admin kind of, where we have asked for work from home, the core factory, the process industry were all running. So that were first challenge started for us. So in that way, we all started like you, that we were skeptical, fearful, and bringing people into that, and so many laws and all that. It started like that. But from the development perspective, then it started setting rolling in the March and April, and some challenges started creeping in. If you are from southern part of India, like in Karnataka, especially Mysore, I know all you are aware, in one factory, 1% got positive, and the whole factory has to shut down. So they have asked all the running factories of us to relook at it. If at all, if somebody is getting positive, you are responsible. And we are not supposed to close it, also ensure the farmers reach the fertilizer. So we started with this, and with our medical team, frontline, and although technical team, they put in round the clock shifts and staggered shift, not people coming too much, all that made a whole lot of shift in our approach to human dimension. Okay, so with that, being a typical and manufacturing setup, we can't think of online learning, meeting in the Teams and Zoom. Yes. So, in the first 1.5 months, me and entire L&D team were helping people to set up, meet in the Teams, Zoom, and then Microsoft and Google, and made them comfortable to log in and then talk, right? So we have veterans and who have worked in the long, and but they were very skeptical to go online and all, right? So in that way, that was the first thing. Then we slowly moved to, we started something called the Beja Fry. In every Friday, we started, as Mr. Verma also said, like we have conducted short surveys in between employees, and even we reached out to the spouse and children. That's the first time in our advanced history that we started doing, except the family days and a few other decorative days, we don't meet or we don't conduct something for the family members. And except a few where colonies, we do run program, but development oriented, we have never done. So this is an opportunity. We started slowly weekly sessions and so many sessions on, especially on the physical, mental health and behavioral and leadership for the working people, and also health related and technical related like that. So
Sure.
In that, what's a change now after 12 months is now for every session, like we have 100+ participants, and the expertise, or earlier we localized to individual units only, individual area, city only to call for experts. Now we have people from Bombay, Delhi, Kolkata, and of course, why not? We have learned from Jack Canfield, we have learned from Blair Singer. They run programs, and then we were able to bring IIMs and Harvards into the hall. So I would say this employee development was one of the very crucial thing which we have taken, and which created a positive mindset among people that, okay, fine, still people are reaching out, right? So this is about my experience with respect to the development, right? So are you able to resonate with me, all of you? Just type me.
Yes.
Right. So
yes,
Okay.
definitely. So I'd like to move to the next thing, right? I mean, we heard about digitization from some of you. Now, what has happened is, with this increasing digitization, it has given birth going to play a key role. Now, while it's going to play a key role, the HR fraternity, the HR personals at different organizations at multiple levels also needs to learn, one, and second, come up with their models in order to ensure that how the HR analytics are modeled in work at places, could be work at sites, and also it could be with respect to HR programs. So I would like to understand from you, Subir, to start with, how are HR leaders looking to use HR analytics to manage the workforce of the future?
So in fact, if I talk about our organization in HR, we have created a special team which is called People Analytics, and who is responsible for driving digitization in HR. Plus, at the company wise, also we have a digitization function which is responsible for creating the digitalization roadmap for the for the whole company. Each function has a clear digitization priorities to automate almost everything, and use of analytics, which is measured through a monthly digitization index. So each function, for example, HR or operations or finance, each function has a digitization index, which is being reviewed on a monthly basis. Now, digitization index, this index has also been added in the KRA of individual. This is very important because so what has happened is that HR and People Analytics is core, but we are further building on it by creating product and services which can be used by other organizations also. And digitization, the main issue with digitization, I feel, or analytics, I feel, is that we do post-mortem. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to build an intelligent insight or intelligent product and services which can provide proactive based solution for future. To give you an example, a specific, I'll give you 2-3 specific example which we have implemented in our organization. One is predictive attrition hiring tool. Now, this hiring tool which we have developed internally, and we're very happy to share with some of you later, that it will give you a lot of pictures that which are the employee. So there are certain parameters which are there, and it will give you parameters that which are the employee which are most likely to leave in the next 6 months time. And this gives with about 82 to 83% of accuracy. So this is not doing only post-mortem of why people have resigned, but it also gives me an insight that who are the people who are likely to resign. It also gives me an insight that which are the campuses which we should go where people are more likely to stay with our organization, which demographics more we need to hire. So this is one tool which we have modeled and we have created, and which we are trying to share with other organizations also. The second tool is employee engagement predictive and prescriptive model. So through which currently the employee engagement which any organization does through any of the external vendors, it tells you what has happened in past. It does not give you mechanism that which are the team lead, which are the team managers which are not very engaged, and what we should do to make them more engaged. So these are some of the input which is there. The final point which I want to make is that any intervention or any program which we are making, or any students who are there on this webinar wants to learn, we need to keep the target audience in mind. So you would see we have 3 kind of target audience. One is the digital native, people who have typically born after Google was formed. The second is digital migrant, people like you and me who are not very digital savvy, but we are trying to learn. The third segment, which is currently also there in most of the manufacturing or traditional sector, are the digital naive, people who are maybe 45 or 50 above, who are not able to use digital as it should have been. So any kind of programs or digitization we are doing, we should keep these audience also in mind, so that it is user friendly and we are able to get the output which we are looking for.
Sure. So moving to you, Chaitali, from the HR analytics perspective, I mean, I would like to hear your response specific to the HR analytics. How do you think HR analytics is going to help in terms of what are the different models in HR analytics, which as an HR person, we should know and we should look to develop in order to manage the flexible workforce and data-driven workforce that we are talking about?
Yes, Sudeep. So I think Subir has given quite a few models and insights. I think that's commendable. But here I would in Dalmia, before I go into Dalmia, but there are some things like HR analytics. What is the goal? The goal of HR analytics is basically the data which we are talking of. The data needs to be turned into an information, and this information needs to turn into insights, right? So generally in HR we all generate a lot of data, right? So we are having data on, say, employee turnovers, talent acquisition, absenteeism, employee engagement, organizational performance, training. So all sorts of data we generally have. So now for HR analytics to helps us to move from basically an operational level to the strategic level, and of course it's the way to go. So now, as Subir rightly said, that there are certain HR metrics, and there are these models which exists, which helps us to make an informed decisions about, say, talent acquisition, maybe on the retention strategies, maybe on the ways to get more of employee engagements, right? How to improve the productivity, how to, so all these things are there. But I think in Dalmia, we are at a stage that we are gradually venturing into the digitization phase, where I have personally a KRA of digitization in HR, whereas we have a department called digitization, where we have launched an HR bot, which is basically over the WhatsApp, our policies are getting digitized. Then on so we are basically, I would say, on the first stage of the digitization and the HR analytics, where we are trying to tell our employees that we are gradually going digital, right?
Sure.
So now there are no Excel data. Whatever data related to employee, we have got Oracle through which we are pulling out data. Our performance management system is online, where we are saying that the entire process will be online. We are drawing out online appraisals.
Sure.
So all those things are there at a first level. But when I heard from Subir, I think that's the next level we are all aspiring to go, and we want to go, where we will have forecasting matrix or forecasting strategies, forecasting analytics, which will help us to make an informed decisions about, okay, so these people have the probability to join my organization, or these are the employees who are to stay with us. These are the employees who are in the red zone, may or may not stay with us. They are looking for an exit. So all this predictive analysis, which needs to be done, and for that, whatever HR metrics needs to happen, is on a, in a stage that we are just moving to ahead of that, when you're moving towards
Sure.
that. So,
Absolutely.
so this is the stage that we are in. So basically,
Sure.
the data has turned into an information, and now this information has to turn into an insight going forward.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I think very well articulated. Very well articulated. So, Mr. Ghosh, you represent a company's fairly young, aggressive organization. I'm going to twist this piece a little bit into a different way. This is another trend. So one is the HR analytics in HR as a trend that we are observing, and
I just want to add on what Subir has mentioned. Ratan Tata has been our mentor to our CEO. He visits us every year. Probably last year he has not visited us, and he's been one of the initial investors to our company. One thing on the data analytics and the HR analytics part, probably, I don't know whether we have taken it from Tata or not, because Tata has always led the way, whether it is ER, whether it is IR, whether it is HR compliance. Government of India in 1952 has legislated Provident Fund Act, whereas in Tata's 1911 Provident Fund was started. So we, as an organization, what Subir has mentioned, they are doing in Tata, we are also doing in Ola, that fence marking and flight risk who are there. people who are probably will leave in the next 6 months or next 8 months, the probability list, that is already in our kitty. The complete analytical skills or the digitization has really helped Ola, because being a front-edge company now, not a traditional company, because we have learned from traditional and being a front-edge now, and being in the mobility space across India now, and we are now spreading across the world. This analytic part is, yes, definitely one of the forefronts in our company, and we are steadily progressing towards it to achieve it. Yes.
So I'm going to come to you with a little bit more a distinctive. We heard about HR analytics, but I think there's another very interesting trend which is emerging, and especially with the what we call as the Gen Z kind of workforce, right? So be it interviews or be it as understanding a candidate, I think flexibility is a word which comes in, right? Now, what does it mean? It means flexible work. They look for career path, which is wherein they can have flexibility, flexible staffing, etc. Now, how do organizations deal with them? And I think you would be the best suited example to talk about it, is because of the fact that a fairly new crowd, again, and very energetic, yet looking for flexible kind of work environment. And I think the best of the talent that you hire, everybody exhibits the same, right? So what are the different models? What has been your observations, if you can share, in terms of the flexibility which these kind of employees look for?
Any new age company, Sudeep, which includes us, because I have admitted to the fact that we are not a traditional company. Here employees come at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, goes at 4 o'clock in the morning. So there is no timing. Those typical traditional 9 hours or 8 hours or 8.5 hours, or the spread overs or the so-called overtimes, it's not there. I do not know what will happen once the codes gets implemented, how would the restrictions will go on. But these ITs and IMs of the world, which are in our frontline people who are into our tech piece, even our HR, are all picked up from XLRI. And TIS, these are the two places where we pick up. The techies, what we pick up are from the IITs. They believe in the flexible working hours. And some of them wear shorts also, come in office, very casual. No, that suit, tie and all, those days have gone probably. So our company believes that although my job as an ER and a compliance group head of the company is to restrict the timing, the working hours, because otherwise it will directly impact on the health of the employee. But this young group of people, aged, because our age front of the people are between 24 and 30, not like me who are in my early 50s. But there are few.
So that makes it more interesting, and I think a lot of HR people would like to understand that, you know, you are at one I'm not saying extreme, but you have grown up and you have seen the traditional involvement more, 9 hours, regulations, and then you are working for a company where you're dealing with this young, right, folks. So I'm sure there is a balance.
It's really tough, Sudeep. Let me tell you. Typically, if I talk of women employees, because there is a government restriction that post 8 o'clock, there has to be some security arrangements for these women employees. They don't even care about it. They don't even want to sign any document. But that's where the HR piece, the ER piece comes into the picture. Because you are bound to sign even if you want to leave at 12 o'clock in the midnight. Even though the responsibility stays with the organization. It's a tough job for us. It's a really tough job. Because we don't have timing. Although now from this pandemic, post the pandemic, from 1st of January, we are regularly going to office. And we have restricting our time from 9:30 to 5:30, which can be extendable to another hour. And let's all be disciplined now, because we will not be able, because now in this pandemic, I do not know how the mobility system is working. Although we are into the mobility business, I do not know post 9 o'clock any cabs will be available in the market. Prior to pre-COVID time, it was there, but now we do not know. And transportation to the large force is not possible to each and every employees.
Sure.
So that's one of the major challenges we face, but now we are trying to discipline ourselves in such a manner that we start our work early and we end it up early.
Sure.
You go back home, you start your work again if you have any work. And that's the reason we are also working from Saturdays now. So we are no more a 5-day company. We are becoming a 6-day, probably we are becoming a traditional company now, because so-called startup period is over for us.
Sure.
Infancy period is over for us.
I'll come to Mr. Rajnikant, you again. I mean, we heard from Subir Tata Chaidali in terms of, processes, HR analytics. We heard from Dr. Ghosh in terms of the new. You again represent a organization and business, agribusiness, right, which is a lot traditional, right, where when you in your industry or in your companies also, you're also seeing a lot the Gen Z kind of people coming, be it a management trainee or probably people who are supposed to implement new things and all. And of course, there are challenges. How are you building that? How are you bridging that? How are you building that? How are you using technology to develop something in case of learning and development as well? Can you please share some insights on that?
Definitely, Sudeep. And definitely our panelists have given the one end of the spectrum. And I'm going to give the other end of the spectrum in terms of Gen Z and also the digitalization. So one thing is very standard, like I don't have that much flexible in terms of like working in a factory setup or in a process industry, whether management trainee in the process or maintenance or electrical. So I can't give that kind of flexibility. If it is a shift, it's a shift, right? So that was a big challenge. And, but still, there are few other elements where Gen Z is more focusing, and then so especially in the career path and development and learn to digitalize. So until now in our management trainee development program, it's a 1-year-long program, because being a process industry, hazardous industry, any engineers diploma, they put into 1 year of rigorous various stages of program, and then we put into the shift. So until now, we don't have a digital program except the simulator training, which we offer at the final stage. They go for panel operation. Now we have brought in other than like a few hands-on field experience, behavioral and simulation, all they can learn sitting in the L&D or after the program through their mobile. That is one thing. And the other side where we bought the flexibility is more into the like administrative, finance, services, all that. We never thought of work from home, right? It's all IT guys job, right? So now if we are very much comfortable. If a person turns up now from January, we are going in alternate days, right? So everyone is so connected with their through Teams or Zoom, all that. So we have brought in that, just so they are comfortable, they are happy. And in fact, it has removed the time frame. As Mr. Ghosh and Verma said, like there is no 9 to 5 and there is no Saturday, there is no Sunday, really, right? So someone calls from the...
I'd like to pause you here. How easy or how difficult has been this culture shift?
It is a challenge. It is a challenge because many people expressed in between a soft survey or a touch reveals that given a situation, they would like to come to office, right? Of course, all other pressures from the family and that's different, but still they miss that factor of colleagues and being with them and that camaraderie they were missing really. So it was a challenge. And we look at the other perspective, I would say they were more productive because being supervised by a boss, like you are doing something or not doing something is different, but still in the virtual mode, you have to show something that I'm working. So that's a big challenge. So people have come forward and attend the meetings and take up the responsibility. And there is a data like they finish well before time, right? Whatever the task or the projects or the task.
Absolutely. So I think you're talking about the fact that the adoption is there. The adaptability is fantastic. It's moving fine, and it's in a positive side, and I would say it's on a scalable trajectory, right? If that is the case, why are we not thinking about, or what we see that there could be different roles that would come up in HR?
So, Sudeep, Sudeep, if I can just add
sure,
a little bit point here on the Gen Z part. See, Gen Z and the millennium workforce, which is coming into corporates, it is like a girlfriend and boyfriend relationship, which turns into marriage. So when they are girlfriend and boyfriend, they like each other, but when they become the employee of the company, then the expectation varies, and these things are different. But I would not blame the Gen Zs or the millennium. See, this generation is different, because most of us, when we were born with a limited resource. We had 4 or 5 brothers, and we had limited resource. Whereas if you see the next generation, which is coming up, they are born and brought up in a relatively abundance family environment. Most of them get what they want most of the times, unlike previous generation. So we have 2 options. So we need to also understand that while one thing, since most of the participants are HR professional, I would like to share with them that it is very easy to blame them, that they are looking for flexibility, they are looking for career path, or they are looking for work from home and all those stuffs. But what is also important is that we need to understand them and prepare our managers, those who are managing these Gen Z workforce, the millennium workforce. We need to prepare our manager to understand them and lead through their way and not my way. The moment I start imposing my way of leadership on them, there would be a conflict. So we need to understand them and manage them through their way. The second, what we are doing is that they are looking for clear-cut path, that what I am trying to do. So like in our organization, we have created a clear-cut career path, which is a digital portal, which has competency that if a person is joining as an electrical engineer or a management training in HR, what are the different career options which are there? And for those career options, what are the competencies which are required? So that he's very clear that this is what I want to do, and this is what I need to I need to pursue. The third one is this generation is very outcome oriented, unlike us, who are bounded in our orientation, that we have to come at 9 o'clock, go at 6 o'clock. They are more outcome oriented. They say that you give me the job, forget about how I do it, when I do it, you just focus on the outcome. The fourth one is leverage technology better. So they leverage technology better, and hence it is our responsibility that apart from binding them by showing them the policy, this is our policy, it is very important that we understand them and also guide them. That this is what they need to do. They are fresher somewhere. If they need guidance, probably we need to guide them also. So there has to be a change of leadership approach by the manager also, in order to provide them what they are looking for.
Absolutely. So I think that's what the point I was coming to. We heard Mr. Rajnikant and we heard Dr. Ghosh as well, Chaitali, and you as well. So what came out is, yes, there is a change that's happening. And I think it's the adaptation. It's the other generation who needs to get adapted and need to understand, communicate well, and etc. And definitely that's how it gets scaled. Now, if that's the case, there could be new roles in HR, right? There could be many new roles in HR. Like, we have not heard today, but it can be that we might have somebody as head of work from home development. We might have somebody as head of human machine integrations. We might have head of workforce design, head of gig workforce management, global cultural head. I know, I mean, you smile say a lot. Could be an aspiration for all of you. But is this going to come as a reality? Like, let's pick out one, right? Something which is called as head of work from home management. It's happening, but then we have seen that as things start falling, I mean, anything that starts new, the first 2 years, the challenges are different. When the same syndrome continues for a little longer time, the challenges are different. And that gives opportunity or the thinking to have something which is more structured. So if you look from that perspective, why not? We might have head of human and machine enablers. We might have head of workforce management. Are these going to be really realities? I mean, I would like to hear from you. Chaitali, I think you are in all smiles, so why don't you start?
Yeah, Sudeep, actually, for me, I think HR as a function has always evolved from being a compliance manager to welfare managers to HR. So it is always there. So we have been having many roles, right? The roles which you have said, that head of workforce management or global culture, and definitely great names and very interesting names. But here, Sudeep, my fundamental question is that does the name roles really define us as HR professionals? So the question is that names do have relevance. I understand that, but the deeper issue is that what we HR actually stand for and how we demonstrate our values to our internal and external customers through our behaviors and actions. So the questions which really comes to my mind is that we should ask ourselves as an HR that are we really proudly a great employer to our employees? Do we have best onboarding programs? Do we have a cutting edge employee engagement platform? Or do we empower our employees, or are we looking at their career growth? Or maybe we are offering employee reward systems, and above all, are we really caring for our people? So end of the day, whatever be the nomenclature, Sudeep, so it could be Meteor, it could be whatever, so all those gig management head and all those things could be there. But at the end of the day, the role, what we stand for does matter. So we are all game. If I'm called a head of global cultural heads, I'll feel great about it. Whether the meaning, but by the end of the day, we'll be doing the role that we are doing as an HR professional. Is what is my take on this.
Sure.
Yeah, so
Sure.
I just want to add up with Chaitali's view. Exactly, in our kind of organization, we don't have a designation per se, right? But still, it has been allotted a kind of a role to the existing HRs. So I before I answer further, I pose a question to all of you, dear HR fraternity. How many of you are ready to change your role from today, right? From the traditional recruitment, IR, ER, and learning facilitation into your maybe a digital or like a digital head, or your big data head to help employee engagement or learning. How many of you are ready? Just type ready, right? So it's a completely different paradigm. You have to just take up a role. Are you ready? Yes. So this is the way we have brought in. Say for example, the L&D team, we have not in the beginning, we were not assigned to the role of importing digital program. No, help each and everyone to be comfortable in the online and have the same kind of that. So they were taken. So similarly, everyone will be revolving. So I think the HR fraternity, like the human is the fundamental, whether it's a digital or on site or one-to-one, it's a game of the day, right? Yeah, that's what.
Sure. So head of human machine integration is possible. I think that's what we are. Subir, your views.
Yeah, what I feel that first Sudeep, there are some more roles. Like there are some companies have HR data detective, chief purpose officer, chief trust officer. So then the list is enormous. What I would say that we need to dump jargons and make things simple. We need to keep things simple. It might work for some, may not for most. at least in Indian context, these things I don't see is going to work for most of the organization. We need to see what sector we are into, like somebody into traditional sector, new age sector, digital sector, this sector, and what business we are into, what is the demographics of our employees, culture in the company, and then bring these kind of changes. Changes just because someone else is doing it is not long term and will result into another change. So I believe that there would be some new roles, especially in digital technology and hybrid working, but not to the extent as we are making noise in any webinar or any HR workshop.
Sure, sure. Dr. Ghosh, your views on these? You think they would turn into reality? I mean, work from home development officer, probably, or you call it global cultural head, all these roles?
Generally, Sudhir, Rajnikant, all of them has probably said the human part of it needs to be looked and relooked every time whenever such challenges do come. The dot-com time 2001, the Lehman Brothers 2008, and now the final hit of 2020 of pandemic. But yes, one thing will definitely come. Out of all these jargons, what I heard from you, I'm sure TeamLease always creates one or more jargons. So this time you guys have created one. The gig workforce is definitely going to come, and it's going to come in a big manner. Why I say this confidently? Because the US economy now and US employment now, 40% of the forces are into gig economy. They are into gig workforce. We have always heard about white collar. We have always heard about blue collars. Most of them are now started hearing about red collar, which is into agriculture. And now this is the gig collar. Whether you pick up the Olas of the world, the Oyos of the world, the Flipkart, Amazon, this complete pandemic, these are the companies who are coming to your home to deliver, to pick you up. And if I talk about my company on the mobility side, we were the first to run on the roads. During the third phase of the lockdown, we went and knocked the Maharashtra Chief Minister, the Karnataka Chief Minister. We knocked all of them so that the frontline workers, the doctors used to come by car. What about the nurses? How would they come? How would they walk? Ola was the first company to come on the road to pick up those nurses, and we didn't allow them to pay. The nominal charge of 7 rupees and 10 rupees were charged, whereas now the fares have just got increased in the newspaper. You have read it. We were the first that point of time. So definitely gig is one part which will come, and employees now choose to be gig. 1920s in Europe, gig was there. However, the Tatas of the world, the Dalmias, the Birlas of the world, they have to stay. Because they're a larger part in the GDP of the company. But the GDP of the company, these e-commerce companies are also playing a larger role, and the kind of employment generation we do. And if I talk about my company, 4.5 lakh indirect employees. They're not employees as per se, but however, the UK Supreme Court has given a judgment, the Apex Court has given a judgment. The gig workforce will be as good as employees, all benefits to be given. What happens to India? Because already in the Code of Social Security, gig definition is already there. Platform worker definition is already there, which was ever missing from our codes. 75 years of independence. It was never there. It was only for the organized workforce. It was never for the unorganized workforce. Nobody has thought about it. We get into a cab. The delivery boys then gives us food, the groceries. How many times have we asked that what is the social security you are covered? Nothing. The domestic workers at home. आज आई घर पे नहीं आई है काम करने के लिए, मैडम को काम करना पड़ रहा है. Where is the social security? Why was in the PF Act or the EPS or EPS of the world or the ESI or even in the employee compensation earlier, which was workman compensation, why was this definition not included? But now it is thought. Now it is coming. So Sudeep, coming back to the point, the cultural heads are already there in many big time companies. HR enablers, I'm sure the HR experts in the panel will definitely able to tell you. But this gig is one piece. Otherwise, the ER and the IR heads will have tough time. Either that will merge into ER and IR, or it will have a different portfolio.
Sure. Sure. Okay. Thank you. Thanks to all of you. I think it brings to the very interesting phase, which is called as rapid fire questions, right? And I enjoy a lot because of the fact that these are quick questions. And I know, Mr. Rajnikant, as your name suggests, I know you can take all the questions at one go, but we have to come in a circular way. So I think the first question is, I'll put it across to Dr. Ghosh itself. When do we go back to pre-COVID levels of growth in this country? 2 quarters, 3 quarters away, or you think it's going to be longer?
2021 is going to be the same. However, the economy is open. But what India is now looking in 2022 onwards, if Prime Minister of India has to fulfill his promise before 2024, $5 trillion economy, I'm sure it is going to happen. We have all learned our lessons, and all major organizations, whether it is smaller or a bigger or a SME or MSME, everybody typically in the HR has learned a lesson that going forward, how are we going to place our organization? Because it will not remain as a support function anymore. It's a part of the business now.
So you are saying pre-COVID levels, it's going to take 2 quarters, 3 quarters, or longer?
Maximum. That forecasting I will not be able to do because I'm not an economist here. But one thing I can assure you, it has come into the full swing.
Okay.
And in the next 2-3 quarters, it will be back to pre-COVID, because the data, what has been showing,
sure,
whether by the Moody's or by the RBIs of the world or by OECD, it is 12.8% is what they are forecasting, which
sure.
is much.
So we'll move to Subir, because this was the rapid fire. Subir, would there be lesser jobs in the country in the next 12 months? Come again, sorry, couldn't hear you.
No, it will be more jobs.
It will be more jobs. Fantastic. Next is Chaitali. Do you think the average wages will go down? Do you think the average wages will go down?
Not at all, Sudeep. I do not foresee wages going down at all, because wages have always risen. And in fact, if you see, the minimum wages always goes high only. And I think for all the sectors, things, I told you, in COVID only we gave appraisals to all our people.
Sure.
So it is only going to go up. Never can it go down.
Okay. So Rajnikant, do you think the recent learnings of pandemic and its aftermath, flexibility at workplace, flexibility with workmen, you think that flexible staff or what you call as temporary staff will go up in the next years to come? I mean, starting from now, whatever we have, it's going to further go up.
So you put up the question again, once again.
Flexible staffing, the flexible staffs, the people on contract, that's going to go up more?
Probably in a certain areas where skill-based, right? It's going to give opportunity, more opportunities.
Okay. So the next question is related, and I'm asking you this question. Do you think that certain percentage of the workforce will permanently be working from home? Will that be a scheme for organizations? And I think everyone can pitch on this.
Yeah, I think actually, Sudeep, my take on this is basically, it is for some of the roles, it is a win-win situation both for the employee and the organization. Because some roles, if they work from home, it is only the productivity, as one of my panelists was saying, that the end outcome, now Gen Z is outcome driven. So we are looking at productivity, the outcome, the results. So wherever you are working from will not make a much of difference. So certain roles, which does not need to come to office, can work from home, permanently work from home and deliver. And gig economy is in line with that only. So I think, yes, there are certain jobs which will permanently work from home. That's my thought. Win-win for both organization and the employee.
Sudhi, what I feel is that we did a study in our organization. It will not be a general for every company.
Yeah.
Every company need to do a study of each of the role, each of the function, which role can be done from work from home or work from office, and so on and so forth. So it will depend on the company and the role. But overall, work from home, work from office, and hybrid model is going to be the way of life in future.
Yeah.
How much percentage, that has to be decided by each organization. It will vary from organization to organization.
Absolutely, yeah.
Sure. Rajnikant, what are your views on that?
Exactly. So unlike IT companies, we cannot go like a fully like a certain roles, one only work from home. And adding to as Mr. Sudhir said, it depends on the sector, and also again it is a hybrid model, right? So we cannot completely avoid. Earlier, if I go and ask, can I work from home? Anyhow, tomorrow is online program. No, right? So that's not it's not there in our dictionary, our DNA. Now it could be part of, and that could be one of the, I would say, the flexible rules and regulations and things for the employees.
Sure. Mr. Ghosh, this is the last and interesting question. Work from home is breaking the shackles of not so employment creating state versus an average employment creating state. I'll tell you why. Because today what you are saying to a lot of techies that you can be anywhere in the country and you can work from there, right? And so traditional thing was that essentially they travel to a much larger job producing state, study there, get a job, and then they kind of do. But because work from home, he can work from anywhere else. So I think, is it breaking the shackles of not so productive state or not so employment creating state versus an average employment creating state?
Sudeep, one needs to understand here, which is already the panelists have said it. For some of the sectors, work from home or work from anywhere will continue. This will not stop, probably for the next few years, till the time it all comes back to normal. Or probably that's the way of life it is going to happen. But employment for that is not going to have any stopover. That will continue and that will go on because the country is progressing now.
Sure.
But some of the portfolios, some of the functions, typically the techies, we do not care where they are. We do not know. We also don't want to know where they are. We also do not want to know what is the working timing they are doing. Because at the end of the day, the result is what it matters. But however, if this is the way the life has to be, the work from home or work from anywhere, the government of India has to create a guideline, or rather a law, or rather a standing order behind it.
Sure.
The standing order of 1946, the Industrial Employment Standing Order of 1946 needs a lot of revamp. Although at one line it has mentioned in the code, but it is not specific. Every time when the law is made, some of the loops are kept probably for the ER or IR to earn their bread and butters. But this has to be more specific now. Otherwise, the working hours is going to be too stretched. Why is people saying the productivity has increased in the pandemic time? Because that 9 hours has gone to 13 hours. 9 hours has gone to 15 hours. In some of the months, I was catering to US, to Australia, as well as to India, right from 4:30 in the morning till 1 o'clock. Was I working in the pre-COVID time that time? No. And it happened to across. It happened across, and that's the reason the productivity piece, which time and again every organization is saying has increased, it has increased because of this, but that cannot be the nomenclature or the norm of the future. the work from home guideline law has to come. Otherwise, the exploitation, the unfair labor practice will continue. That's all, Sudeep.
Sure.
If I can pitch in for a minute, Sudeep, see,
Sure.
we are over glamorizing work from home because it is new. See, we also need to understand people who are there on HR, people who are there on this webinar, that in India, only 4 to 5% of workforce is employed in the organized sector. Rest 92% are not in organized sector. And if we take them, even if the company allow everybody work from home, do they have infrastructure at home? Do they have equipment at home to connect on work from home?
Sure.
And thirdly, the trend we have seen that there is especially a fatigue factor. People don't want to work from home, especially the women employees. It is very difficult for them to work from home and work for home because they have to do both.
Mothers, Sudeep, the working mothers, they are the
so especially so especially what we have realized is that we are over glamorizing this because it is new. Over a period of time, it will stable and it will continue. The work from home and hybrid model will continue, but not to the extent which is being made out to be. So we have to be a little more realistic, and we have to think holistic in nature. Only organized sector, only permanent workforce. We also have to see people who are working in unorganized sector and contractual work.
Sure. Great. So I think with that, we come to an end of the program. It was a fantastic session, and thanks once again to have all of you. I enjoyed a lot, and so has been the participants. It was a excellent mix of somebody, representing the HR fraternity to IR, and of course, learning. And thanks to all of you, and thanks to all the participants as well. I'm sure all of you enjoyed hearing our eminent panelists and the elite panelists for the day. We look forward to host you all again in your very near future. And thanks for joining the webinar.